On August 23rd, 2024, a 19-year-old girl sent her father a simple text message, "Good night." It would be the last time he would ever hear from her. 8 days later, her body was discovered on an embankment along a busy Maryland highway, and what investigators found would reveal a night of unimaginable horror. This is the story of Da'Cara Thompson. But before we dive into this case, if you're new here, welcome to Shadow Crime. We cover the cases that need to be heard, the stories that demand justice. Make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and click the bell icon so you never miss an update. Your support helps us bring these important stories to light. Now, let's talk about what happened to Da'Cara Thompson, because this case is going to stay with you. Da'Cara Thompson was just 19 years old. She was a young woman from Prince George's County, Maryland, with her whole life ahead of her. Like many teenagers transitioning into adulthood, she was navigating life, making decisions, figuring things out. She lived with her family, stayed in touch with her dad, and on that August night, everything seemed normal. She told her father she was going to get gas, a routine errand, something we all do without thinking twice. She texted him good night, and then she vanished. Prince George's County sits just outside Washington, D.C., a diverse area with bustling communities, strip malls, and residential neighborhoods where families live their everyday lives. Langley Park, where Da'Cara was last seen, is one of those areas. It's a working-class neighborhood, home to many immigrant families, with shops and businesses that stay open late into the night. On any given evening, you'll see people go about their business, grabbing food, running errands, living their lives. It's the kind of place where you wouldn't expect something so terrible to happen, but that's the thing about these cases. Evil doesn't announce itself. It blends in. When Da'Cara didn't come home that night, her family knew something was wrong. This wasn't like her. She wasn't the type to just disappear without a word.
Announced the arrest of a Bowie man in connection with Da'Cara Thompson's death. The 19-year-old was reported missing August 23rd. Her body was discovered in Anne Arundel County days later.
Her father reported her missing on August 23rd, and investigators immediately began piecing together her last known movements. What they discovered was chilling. Surveillance footage from that night showed Da'Cara parking her SUV behind a Family Dollar store in Langley Park around 3 a.m. She got out of her car and walked toward another vehicle, a black GMC Yukon Denali. She approached the driver's side, had a brief conversation with whoever was behind the wheel, then walked around to the passenger side and got in. Just like that, she was gone. And here's what makes this even more unsettling. We still don't know if Da'Cara knew the person driving that SUV. Investigators have been trying to figure out whether she and the driver had any prior relationship, whether this was someone she trusted, or if this was a complete stranger. Think about that for a second. A young woman, in the middle of the night, getting into a car. Was this planned? Was she meeting someone? Or did something else happen that we don't fully understand yet? The days that followed were agonizing for her family. Imagine waiting, hoping, praying that your daughter, your sister, your loved one will walk through that door. Every hour that passes, the fear grows. Every phone call could be the one. Every knock on the door. But days turned into a week, and there was still no sign of Da'Cara. Then, on August 31st, 8 days after she disappeared, Maryland State Police responded to a report of a disabled vehicle along Route 50 in Anne Arundel County. Route 50 is a major highway that runs through Maryland, connecting Annapolis to the D.C. area. It's busy, it's well-traveled, and it's not the kind of place you'd expect to find something like this. But as officers approached the area near the South River Bridge, they discovered something that would turn this missing persons case into a homicide investigation. They found Da'Cara's body on an embankment, thrown over the bridge like she was nothing. Let me tell you, when I read about cases like this, it breaks my heart. This was somebody's daughter, somebody's friend, a young woman who had dreams, plans, people who loved her, and now her family had to face the worst news imaginable. The autopsy revealed the brutal truth. Da'Cara had suffered skull and facial fractures. The medical examiner's findings painted a picture of violence, of someone who fought for her life or was attacked with such force that she had no chance. The official cause of death hasn't been fully released to the public, but what we do know is horrifying enough. Now investigators had a massive task ahead of them. They had surveillance footage showing Da'Cara getting into that black SUV. They had a body. They had evidence of a violent death. But who was driving that vehicle? Who was the last person to see Da'Cara alive? This is where the investigation really kicks into gear, and honestly, what they uncovered is both impressive police work and absolutely infuriating when you hear the whole story. Detectives went back to that surveillance footage and started tracing that black GMC Yukon Denali. They needed to find out who owned it, where it went after the car got in, and most importantly, who was driving. The investigation led them to a residence in the 12,000 block of Cambridge Drive in Bowie, Maryland. This is a residential area, the kind of neighborhood with rental properties and people just trying to get by. And living in one of those bedrooms was a 35-year-old man named Hugo Hernandez-Mendez.
The body that was found off of Route 50 in Annapolis does belong to 19-year-old Da'Cara Thompson. They have arrested 35-year-old Hugo Hernandez-Mendez of Bowie and charged him with her murder. Investigators say Hernandez-Mendez is in the country illegally and an ICE detainer was issued for him yesterday.
Now here's where things get really interesting, and I need you to pay attention to this timeline because it matters. Hugo Hernandez-Mendez was a Guatemalan national who had been living in that Bowie home as a renter. He had access to that black SUV. And according to court documents, he told authorities he had been at the Galaxy nightclub on University Boulevard in the early morning hours of August 23rd. And guess what? That club is directly across the street from where Da'Cara was last seen on that surveillance footage. The pieces were starting to come together. On September 4th, detectives executed a search warrant at that Cambridge Drive residence. What they found inside that bedroom was damning. Blood evidence. Blood in the bedroom. Blood in the SUV. The kind of evidence that tells a story of violence, of a crime scene that someone tried to clean up but couldn't erase completely. Based on everything they collected, investigators determined that Da'Cara had been murdered right there in Hugo Hernandez-Mendez's bedroom. Think about the horror of that for a moment. This young woman got into a car, possibly thinking she was safe, possibly knowing this person, possibly having no idea what was about to happen. She was driven to this house in Bowie, taken inside and killed in that bedroom, and then her body was transported back to Route 50 and thrown over a bridge like garbage. The callousness of it is almost impossible to comprehend. But here's something that makes this even more chilling. One of the people living in that house told investigators they heard Hernandez-Mendez having sex with someone around 5 a.m. on August 23rd. Another witness mentioned that he had a drinking and drug problem. These are the kinds of details that paint a picture of what might have happened that night, though the exact motive is still unclear. Was this a sexual assault that turned deadly? Was there an argument? Did something go wrong? We may never know the full truth of what happened in that bedroom, but what we do know is that Da'Cara Thompson died there.
We're learning new details in the murder of 19-year-old Da'Cara Thompson out of Prince George's County. We told you after nearly 2 weeks of searching, her body was found in Anne Arundel County. Investigators announced that they arrested 35-year-old Hugo Hernandez-Mendez and is being charged with first and second-degree murder.
Hugo Hernandez-Mendez was arrested in early September 2024 and charged with first-degree murder and second-degree murder. When he was brought before a Prince George's County District Court judge on September 8th, the courtroom was packed. Da'Cara's family and friends filled every seat, there to see the man accused of taking her life face justice. The judge ordered that Hernandez-Mendez be held without bond, and honestly, can you blame them? The evidence was overwhelming. The blood, the surveillance footage, the timeline, everything pointed directly at him.
Hugo Hernandez-Mendez is charged with murdering Da'Cara Thompson and then discarding her body. ICE says he was in the country illegally. Hernandez-Mendez just made an appearance in court this afternoon. We want to warn you first, though, some of the details that are in this case you might find troubling. News 4's Darcy Spencer was at that hearing, joins us with the very latest on this investigation. Darcy?
Erica, it was a little bit of a surprise this afternoon. We were waiting for the bond review, and then his attorney said that he wasn't challenging. He did not try to get a bond set, so he's continuing to be held without bond. In the meantime, we are getting more information about what evidence has been collected in the case, including blood evidence and an indication that the victim suffered skull and facial fractures.
But here's where this case takes a turn that's going to make your blood boil. And it's something we need to talk about because it raises serious questions about our system. Hugo Hernandez-Mendez wasn't some ghost who appeared out of nowhere. He had a history with law enforcement. Back in April 2024, just 4 months before Da'Cara's murder, he was arrested by U.S. Park Police on the Baltimore-Washington Parkway near Annapolis Road for a suspected DUI. He was taken into custody. He was processed, and then he was released. Now here's the part that has local officials furious. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, IC, failed to request a detainer on him. They didn't take action while he was in custody. They had him right there, and they let him go. For months later, Da'Cara Thompson was dead. I want you to think about that. I'm not trying to make this political, but we have to ask the hard questions. Could this have been prevented? If IC had done their job back in April, would Da'Cara still be alive today? After his arrest for murder, ICE finally issued a detainer. A little too late, don't you think? This isn't about immigration policy or border debates. This is about a system that failed to protect someone. It's about agencies not communicating, not following through, not doing the basic work that could have saved a life. And now a family has to live with that loss forever. On October 8, 2024, Hernandez-Mendez returned to court for a preliminary hearing. The legal process is moving forward, slowly but surely. He's facing some of the most serious charges you can face in the criminal justice system. First-degree murder means premeditation, planning, intent. Second-degree murder is still murder, just without that element of planning. Either way, if convicted, he's looking at spending the rest of his life behind bars. But let's be real here. No amount of prison time brings Da'Cara back. No verdict, no sentence. Nothing can undo what happened to her. Her family held vigils. They mourned. They tried to make sense of something that makes no sense.
The text he sent her about an hour later.
I said, I'm about to go to bed. I was just checking on you.
She responded right away.
I should be back soon. I love you too. Good night.
But after that, she not only didn't return, but she didn't answer any of their texts or calls.
How do you explain to a father that the daughter who texted him goodnight is never coming home? How do you cope with the fact that a simple trip to get gas turned into a nightmare? And we still have so many unanswered questions. Did Da'Cara know Hugo Hernandez-Mendez before that night? Investigators are still trying to figure that out. Was this a random encounter, or was there some prior connection? What was said in that brief conversation before she got into his vehicle? What made her feel comfortable enough to get in? Or was she forced? We just don't know. The motive for her murder is still under investigation. Was this sexual violence? Was it drug or alcohol-fueled rage? Was there an argument that escalated? The answers to these questions matter, not just for the legal case, but for understanding how this tragedy unfolded. What we do know is that Da'Cara Thompson was failed. She was failed by a system that allowed a dangerous person to walk free. She was failed by whatever circumstances led her to that parking lot at 3 a.m.
Members of the media for showing sensitivity during the reporting of this case. We know there were questions that you had and questions that we couldn't answer due to the investigation being ongoing. On September 5th, detectives from the Prince George's County Police Department's Homicide Division developed probable cause to present charges for the murder of Da'Cara Thompson. This morning, criminal charges were issued for first-degree and second-degree murder. The facts of the case: 19-year-old Da'Cara Thompson was last seen on August the 22nd. She was reported missing the very next day.
She was failed by someone who chose violence over humanity. And now her story joins the countless others we cover here on Shadow Crime. Stories of lives cut short, families destroyed, and justice desperately sought. This case should make us think about so many things. It should make us question how we protect our communities. It should make us wonder about the choices we make, the people we trust, the moments that change everything. It should make us angry about the failures in our systems that allow preventable tragedies to happen. So let me ask you this, and I really want you to think about it. What drives someone to take another person's life? Is it purely evil, or is it a combination of circumstances, substances, and choices that spiral out of control? Can we ever truly understand the mind of someone who commits such violence? And more importantly, how many more Da'Caras are out there? How many more preventable deaths will happen because systems fail to communicate, because warning signs are ignored, because someone falls through the cracks? If you or someone you know has any information about this case, about Da'Cara's relationship with the suspect, or about what happened that night, please reach out to the Prince George's County Police Department. Every piece of information matters. Every detail could be the one that brings complete closure to this family. This is Shadow Crime, where we don't just tell stories, we demand justice. Hit that like button if you want to see more cases like this covered. Subscribe and turn on notifications because we're not stopping until every voice is heard. Drop a comment below and let me know what you think about this case. Should there be more accountability when systems fail like this? I want to hear from you. Until next time, stay safe out there. And remember, the shadows always reveal the truth eventually.